Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information that you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning. Happy Monday.
Waited just long enough.
Had to get it in. I didn't want to leave the audience on suspense, so had to hurry up and get it done.
Our brains were frozen, not our computers.
Yeah. Well, hey, if it helps you guys, my dad actually texts me every Monday morning now saying Happy Monday because of the show. So I don't even know if he knows about like the phrase, and I don't think he actually listens or watches, but he knows it's a thing. So I get a text every Monday morning at like 4 a.m. It's like, Happy Monday.
Papa Slickers?
Yeah.
In case you're
big
listening.
GMH fan. Big GMH fan.
Nice.
You must think you really like Mondays. You have all these shirts with Mondays. He's like, man, Will is just a huge Monday fan.
Huge Monday
It's
fan.
not. Let's be honest. It is the best day of the week. That saying didn't start for no reason. It wasn't satire.
Mondays are great. Mornings are great. Early morning energy. We're screaming for the data. You're back for more, Jamie. We had you 2 weeks ago. Now, July 1st, obviously, it's the first of the month. We're trying to keep you on a nice rotation here, Jamie. So how you been since we last saw you and since the listeners got to hear and be graced by the presence of your voice?
Well, I was graced with the presence of Will in Denver last week. So we got dinner. That was great.
Awesome.
The SDR Robinson's event at the Gaylord was amazing. And then spent the week in the office in Denver, which was a lot of fun. So
some changes happening at AirDNA in a good way. Sounds like you guys are ramping up a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and lots of product improvements, lots of and changes. It's lots going on.
You guys are busy. They keep you on your toes. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
And one of those, I guess, updates, not changes, updates will be discussed today on the show. Look with more forward-looking data, and I'm unaware of anyone else that's done pretty good forward-looking data. So it must be nice to be on the cutting edge.
We're trying. So the thing about the future is, it's unpredictable.
I love it. Well, before we get into that main topic, we have two subtopics to go into. I think the first one, Jamie, is a perfect one to start off with you because you sent a Lester Holt interview with Sam Altman, CEO and co-founder of OpenAI, and of course, Brian Chesky. Some interesting statements, interesting friendship. I would love for you to kind of open it up first. Just kind of give us your hot takes on the relationship and maybe not even the relationship of the two, but the statements that Brian made on AI in the next 2 years.
One is just, I don't think we've seen the tip of the iceberg on how Airbnb is going to be introducing AI into their platform and sort of the whole and helping people know where they want to travel or know where they should be traveling before they even know, or can, and with just a few prompts, get to a perfectly curated trip, I think it is coming. I think just the relationship between Sam and Brian is super interesting because it's like, obviously OpenAI is on the forefront and we've got, NVIDIA now is the second largest company by market cap in the world that's sort of feeding the tech, the code base behind it. And I think Brian said it of like what's to come and like what's here now. Like AI hasn't changed really any of our day-to-day lives. Like I think the quote was, you pull up your phone and like look at any app where you've seen a meaningful change because of AI. And we're not there yet. Like, but it's coming. And I think and they were one of the only ones to sort of sort of shelve their plans of saying we want to make a big splash and we're not there yet. Like, we need to learn, we need to study, we need to really see how we want the sort of consumer experience to change. And I think, and both with Sam and Brian, like, there was this hesitancy of like, all right, things are going to change a lot over the next decade. We want to do it thoughtfully, and those that are doing it thoughtfully, are probably going to see the greatest benefits in terms of their companies long term.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it, the next 2 years, or the app, right? When you open your phone, nothing has changed comment really got me, especially because, Michael, I'm always going to quote you on this, but you said way back when we were talking about like the summer release updates and stuff, that Brian Chesky doesn't think in weeks, months, years. He does think in decades. And to have the fact that he stated, in the next 2 years, because the CNBC reporter or whoever is interviewing him basically was like, when are we going to see AI like applied to the actual Airbnb app itself? And he said within the next 2 years. And I think that's really foreshadowing on kind of Brian's or Michael's statement about Brian being very decade like focused. And so one of the questions I want to kind of like ask you guys, and Michael, feel free to jump in on your thoughts and stuff, but I think like the overall approach that they're having is really interesting. And I think I don't know if it's actually just going to be like matchmaking. I think like definitely more pushing towards the app again, social media type focus, which Brandy may not agree about. But I definitely think if Brian keeps pushing towards his app, I think it's kind of a hint and a sign that way. But would love to know your thoughts, Michael, too.
Yeah, I'm formulating this thought as I go right now, but I think the breakdown of Airbnb could look like a social media app guest facing, because we know 80% of guests, thanks to Expedia's information, 80% of guests get their inspiration from social media. I don't see AI playing a big factor in trip inspiration. Maybe my feeble brain just can't understand why someone would have like a algorithm tell you where your next vacation is. I hate that personally, but I'll kick it to you, Jamie, with the question. But I do think there's a lot of AI on the host side of things that can make the host's job that much easier. And so if you look at right down the middle, AI goes towards hosts, social media goes towards guests or daily interactions, and you've got a bit of a super app there. So Jamie, what do you think? Do you think the AI is for both sides of the marketplace?
Yeah, and how many times have you opened up Netflix and like known exactly what you're going to watch before you even open the app, versus you open it up and like Netflix suggestions like, you should watch this, Michael, like, or like and then when you get that perfect suggestion, you just click it. It's like, oh my God, this was an amazing, like, I went in, I didn't know what I want to watch. It suggested it, and this was perfect. Versus like,
where did you hear about it though? Are you just relying purely on the algorithm, or did you hear about it on social media first, and then now they served it to you?
Yeah, I believe in Wil's sort of theory around moving people to the app, and you've got guests now, like you can add everyone on your trip. They've got to get the app as well to do sort of communication. Now you've got 10 people on your trip, all with the app. And now you've got 10 people that are now much more likely to potentially book a trip that the AI is going to suggest. And I think this all works around growing the pie of overall potential guests and finding inspiration for that trip that they might get notified on in-app.
Yeah. And to your comment, Michael, shout out to Bestie AI for the host side of things. Just want to give them that shout out because they do crush it for all the operators out there. The #1 AI communication platform, just FYI. Anyways, Did I say we're an advisor for them too? Just putting that out there too. Just want to make sure. But anyways, no, I think it's really interesting. I think there's a lot of moving ground, and I think it's going to be like the Skift article that we saw, and to kind of maybe close out this topic and move on to the next. The Skift article was kind of talking about is like, would we see Brian Chesky potentially leave his CEO spot to jump over to OpenAI and pull a Dara, right? Like Dara went from Expedia, jumps over to Uber. He's got a lot of experience in the travel sector. Brian Chesky has a lot of experience with regulations and working with counties and states and countries and all this other stuff, right? And granted, they're not perfect. There's still obviously bans in New York and soon to be Barcelona and all this other stuff. But, that was like the posing question is, would Brian Chesky pull a Dara and jump over to OpenAI? And before Michael jumps in, is Brian does make statements publicly that he is not officially involved in OpenAI as like an advisor or a board member or anything like that. Just a friend who gives advice to Sam throughout the journey. So that is my disclaimer statement. Michael, thoughts?
He has 11 billion reasons to have zero interest in joining another company. I mean, he's the visionary behind Airbnb. Nate and Joe had definitely a big effect into it, or a big impact in the businesses. But Brian's the visionary, and without Brian, does Airbnb become this social media platform? And do they roll out? Do they have the vision to roll out AI in a way that probably none of us are nailing on the head right now? Mm-hmm. And he thinks in decades. So I would be absolutely blown away if he does. And if they do, then Verbo and Booking need to be ready and just seize on the opportunity, because he is the lifeblood of that business. So I think there's a close to 0.0 chance of that happening. Him being involved on the board, maybe, but him going to run the business, I'd be blown away.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think it would be, I don't know. I do think about like, what would Brian's life be like without Airbnb? Like if he signed another 10-year agreement, right? So he's there for 10 more years. What does he do after? Does he extend? Like, how long can he keep going and running at that pace? I know it's his baby, but I wonder if there's ever a point where Brian, gets a step away.
And Musk are in their 50s. They're all billionaires. But they've all added different lines of their business. So
who knows?
We know Brian's tried to add different lines to his business multiple times, and for whatever reason has failed pretty much every time. But he very much has not failed on his core offering. So
do you want to know how our listeners cannot fail at their core offering in business, and by extending their normal just execution, is getting sojo? That's how you got to get it. You got to get sojo, because you know what? When you're doing your core business, that's hospitality. It's thinking about your guests. When your guests show up, they don't want an empty home with no shampoo, no snacks, no nothing. All right. So if you get with sojo, you get this branded amenity kit, and you can make sure your guests are taken care of, adding to the core of your business, making sure the hospitality is at your core, also making your brand the hero. They're going to remember Airbnb, but are they going to remember you? So that's the big thing with sojo. So if you go to getsojo.com/GMH, you'll get 30 days free of amenities. And of course, you can check out their pantry options, plus many, many other things to come soon. So thanks, Sojo, for partnering with the show. And now we're back to the next topic. All right, Florida vetoes a short-term rental, a vacation rental bill, basically enforcing harder regulations on current and future existing operators. Michael, do you want to jump into this article?
Desantis saves the day and vetoes it. I mean, what else is there to say? Florida's got one of the most friendly regulatory environments, and DeSantis comes in and maintains that. So big shout out to all those involved. I know Dennis at Cassiola was a leader in that movement.
Definitely.
Lino Maldonado, what's going on, buddy? Long time no chat. But it's guys like that that keep this industry on firm ground. So well done to them. Well done to Desantis.
Yeah,
Hope
yeah.
more governors see that.
For sure. Well, and for the listeners, there's going to be a link in the show notes for the article about the bill if you had questions on, the vote. So it looks like it was approved 23 votes to 16. So it wasn't a landslide, but it was close. So, there's more information I will put in the show notes that you can be informed if you have properties there. All that good stuff. We'll make sure you have the information. Moving on to the main topic of the hour, or the main topic of the 30 minutes, is AirDNA's newest research. So, Jamie, of course, want you to have the spotlight, but basically the best vacation rental markets in the next 5 years is what AirDNA has whipped up. Would love to know what the listeners can expect from this report.
Yeah, so this report just came out, and what we wanted to do was take maybe a slightly different approach than we typically do with just best markets to invest, but think about which markets are going to have the biggest sort of tailwinds over the next 5 years. And so when we started thinking about what's going to add tailwinds, because current supply demand dynamics, they're super important for making decision on yield and what markets makes most sense today. But for real estate, we talk about 5-10 year holds, the dynamics that are around today, and maybe this past 4 years are the best representation of that. How things were performing 2 years ago is not representative of what's going to be happening in the future. So we thought of what's going to be making the biggest change, or what has made the biggest change over the past 4 years, and what could be making the biggest change over the next 4 years. And that was population changes. So we've seen massive movements in population. We saw the Great Migration throughout 2021 and 2022. And what we know about and where people are moving from to, there was big difference in those type of markets. And what is the biggest predictor of where someone is going to vacation? It's where they live. So if we see all these movements and where people are living, we thought that this has to be having sort of long-term implications on the demand of vacation rentals in these markets. So you start with which markets saw the biggest sort of migration trends. And there's some areas Houston, Dallas, Phoenix, Tampa, Austin, Atlanta also saw the most in-migration over the past 4 years, where you saw markets like New York, LA, Chicago, San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, which realized the most out-migration. So now with that information, which markets do you think would benefit most from those? And what we do is we go in and look at the feeder cities. So, and where people that live in those markets actually travel to, and then sort of back into which markets should see the most demand growth over time because of the increases in population, i.e. more people living in those feeder cities.
Jamie, for the people that are like me, can you explain a feeder city? What's a feeder city?
Yeah. So if we think about a market like I'm in Atlanta, and where would you think people in Atlanta travel to for vacation?
Gulf Shores. I don't know.
Yeah.
Beach.
So you've got the North Georgia mountains, you've got Asheville, Santa Rosa Beach, Panama City, Amelia Island, Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge. So if all else held equal, Atlanta saw a massive increase in population, you would think those markets would see a subsequent increase in travelers to those destinations.
Is there a radius or a drive distance time that's kind of standard across it? Or
no,
if it's greater than 6 hours, it's nixed? Or it's people from Dallas are used to driving 14 hours to go anywhere. So that's just a weekend trip.
And we're looking at actual data of where those people are traveling to. So we analyze hundreds of millions of reviews on Airbnb. And because we can see in the guest reviews where they're from, and then the properties they're staying in. So this is based on all historical data of where people actually travel to, and to get rid of, because we did see people traveling much longer distances during the pandemic. We just look at the data over the past year.
Yeah, and that's probably really good data, because this past year has been a large
reset
drive to.
Yeah.
I see far fewer trips to Europe on my feed this summer than I did last summer.
Yeah.
But
Jamie,
to your question about Dallas, like Dallas, most people that live in Dallas are traveling to like Galveston, Broken Bow, Fredericksburg, Hot Springs, Arkansas, Corpus Christi. So those are the markets that would really benefit. So what do the results say? Historically speaking, so the travel movements or the migration movements that we've seen over the past 4 years, the top markets that sort of benefit from that are mostly in Texas, because Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and were all in the top 10 for population gains. So in terms of vacation rental markets that should see the most benefit from that, Corpus Christi, Fredericksburg, South Padre Island, Galveston, and then you get into Broken Bow, Pine Top, Lakeside, Arizona, Boone, North Carolina mountains, Lake Hartwell, and Hot Springs, Arkansas, all expected to see the most organic demand growth based on historical migration trends.
And one of our favorite markets, Jamie, the Blue Ridge Mountains, coming in at number 11, just outside of the top 10.
Yeah. But then, and someone called this out on LinkedIn yesterday, like you take that in isolation, because that's just looking at sort of demand. We got to put that in context of sort of current yield. Like, where does it actually make sense to buy today based on home values, based on what these properties are earning? So then we sort of created a scatter plot. So with yield and then forecasted population growth. And then we get some slightly different markets, because not all of those markets that I mentioned are actually make sense to invest in given the sort of current yield dynamics. So when we incorporate yield, we get a group of markets where some are similar. So Corpus Christi, Broken Bow, still on there. But then you get Gray Harbor, Washington, Northern Cascades Mountains in Washington. You get North Georgia Mountains. You get Galveston, Texas, Boone, North Carolina, and then Fredericksburg and South Padre Island. So a few different markets sort of weaving their way in once you incorporate yield. And this isn't meant to be the Bible, like in terms of investment, but really bringing in some new thinking of, and with real estate, investing for the long term, which markets are going to have some tailwinds for future demand growth that you might be able to sort of pick up on.
I was going to say the North Cascades is doing really well for us. We have a couple investors on like Whidbey Island, like so the San Juans, and then of course the North Cascades, especially growing up from over there. It's a beautiful part of the state. So I'm glad to see that on the list. So I was like, it's good. It's good.
So I guess similarly, there's markets to avoid, right? There's the mass exodus of particularly the Bay Area in California, and LA, which trickles into Mammoth and Big Bear. But I do think like dive into some of that for us.
Yeah. So there's and we typically don't do this, but we did, because it provided an interesting list. So we did the worst markets to invest into, and which markets are the feeder cities seeing population declines or at least very little growth that are going to more than likely see some tough times. So there we get an entirely different set of lists. Lake Geneva in Wisconsin, Michigan West Coastal, Wisconsin Dells, Big Bear, California, Mammoth Lakes, California, Door County, Wisconsin, the Adirondacks in New York, the Finger Lakes in New York. So a lot of these markets that are really the top travel destinations for people that live in New York, that live in LA, that live in San Francisco, where we haven't seen as much inbound migration, or we've seen a lot of outbound migration, both historically and expected in the future.
So I know this might be a dumb question, so forgive me if this is a dumb question. You're like, did you even read the report, Will? But my question is, during COVID, we saw this big uptake in drive to destination travel.
Yep.
Is this going to become more normal now? I know Michael said there's less trips to Europe on his feed and all this other stuff this summer, but I want to know, are people even traveling at all in the sense of like the way they did with COVID? Are they still wanting to drive 30, 40, 50, 100 miles outside of town to go to a destination like you're kind of talking about right now?
Yeah. I mean, most people, and if they're traveling to a lot of these vacation rental destinations, and we did limit this to just analyzing vacation rental destinations, like they're traveling with their kids, they're traveling within a 3 to 4 hour radius to get to the beach, to get to the mountains. And that's demand that we've seen super stable over time. And we expect to be super stable in the future. Like there's just not much that's going to change me from driving with my kids down to Rosemary Beach, right? Or to Panama City. Like, even if we go into recession, even if like I lost my job, like we'd still prioritize that one trip to the beach. Like we might stay a little bit less
Rosemary
time.
And you'd go to Panama City.
Yeah. We might go to Myrtle Beach, but we're still going to take that week-long beach trip. We're still going to make that happen. So that's really stable time. And one interesting thing we found in the research, for every 1% change in population, we see a 2 to 3% increase in short-term rental demand. So there is that sort of vector of that we see in the data of, with markets that are seeing this growth, we do see the subsequent increase in demand growth in these markets.
It's probably impossible to tell. It's far, far easier on the hotel side to look at projects under development and for delivery to estimate supply growth. Do you guys factor in any supply growth into this? Is that coming in the future?
Yeah.
Or is that just really like so tough to kind of meld in with accurate data?
And we do now have forecasts of most of these major markets that we actually try to forecast supply. But our forecasts of supply definitely take way more into account of what are the actual investment dynamics in each of these markets. Do we expect more supply to be added in? And if there's sort of things limiting supply growth that are going to push occupancies higher, like that would lead to higher ADR growth. So this really focuses in on the demand side of the equation, and we sort of incorporated the results of this research into our forecasts. So we're taking into account feeder market growth and forecasting these vacation rental destinations. But where I'd expect, and what we see over time, supply and demand typically grow in line with each other. So these are the markets, and the ones that we're sort of calling out for the most demand growth over the next 5 years are probably going to be the ones with the most supply growth as well, because they're going to see in the short term, the highest occupancy gains. And then over time, occupancies typically level out and are pretty stationary over time.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, when I started in the industry, Nashville was like this untouched gem. And then the supply grew like 300% in 1 year. And the metrics just flipped upside down. But I don't think that's going to happen in any of these markets, just simply because they're not big enough to have a 3x growth in supply.
Yeah.
But it does feel like everyone and their brother has a project going on in Fredericksburg or Hill Country. But it makes sense if there's that much population growth in the surrounding cities, that there will be that much demand growth, and it is, despite how much supply is going out there, the demand will still fill it.
Yep. And what was fun is we actually ran it a few different ways based on population, employment, incomes. And the one where Fredericksburg like really moved away from the pack was on income, just because like you have so many high income earners sort of coming into those into the sort of Austin, San Antonio, even the Dallas, Houston area, people moving from sort of the coastal markets into Texas, sort of Elon Musk bringing all his friends with him.
Yeah. All his billionaire friends.
Yeah.
Lovely. Love it.
Excuse the data.
Yeah. Shout out to Terry White for tuning in on the live. We saw Michael taking care of some dad duties during a live broadcast. You gotta respect the hustle. Gotta respect that grind.
Little knock at the door. Just a little 5-year-old meltdown session. So I'm sure you know it well, Terry.
Super good. Well, exciting stuff. Listeners, for anyone not on the live, this report will be in show notes. So grab it, study it, quiz Jamie on it, all the things.
If you disagree with it, give me a shout out. If you like it, give me a shout out.
Go on to Twitter, tag Jamie, tell him it sucks and why you don't like it. And then we'll debate, and then we'll cover the debate on the pod. It'll be a good show. Just kidding. We won't do that because the data doesn't suck. Awesome stuff. All right. What do you guys got going on for the 4th? Who's got fun plans? Jamie, I know you're on a plane on the 4th. Tell us what your plans
I'll be traveling with my family, 2 kids up to Maine, Acadia National Park area. We'll be up there for 2.5 weeks. It's where my parents live. They have 4 short-term rentals up there. So we'll be just helping out the family business.
Testing each one out for a few nights.
Yeah. So I'll be chilling during the days, working at the Quiet Side Art Gallery and in Bernard, Maine, if anyone wants to come by and hang out.
I don't think helping out the family business is going and staying 2.5 weeks during peak season, but nice justification. Yeah. Good.
What's the point of being part of a family business if you can't enjoy the product every now and then, you know?
Hey,
so,
amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
What about you, Michael? What do you and the fam got going on for the 4th?
Not a whole lot, man. Just
barbecuing. Come on, tell me you got something going on.
We'll definitely hit the grill and go to the pool.
There you go. I love that. Love that for you.
Get my tan on.
Yeah, get your tan on. We never mind. I'm not gonna say it, but yeah, get your tan on. I can't wait. If anyone tries to reach out to me starting tomorrow afternoon, you're never gonna hear from me until the 7th. So not never. You're not gonna hear from me until the 7th. I'm out of office. I'm camping. I'm up at the mountains doing dispersed camping. Gonna pull out the good old sleeping bag for the summer, and it's gonna be a good time. I'm pumped.
Have fun.
Yeah,
that's a long time in a sleeping bag. Too long for me, but
well, I'm coming home the 6th, and then I gotta pack for our retreat, and I gotta fly out the 7th and meet with our videographer, drive down to you, and then see you. So this whole thing, like we got
live from Auburn next week.
Yep,
we'll
be live. We'll have Brandy on from remote, I believe, and then we're gonna crank off our first Good Morning retreats. It's gonna be fun. We're super sad that Jamie's not gonna make it, but he's gonna be spending 2.5 weeks in the family business property. So working from home. Yeah, I doubt he's gonna be much help from his computer unless he's pulling data for him. But I don't see Jamie going to go clean.
The prices are too low.
I love it. All right. So good morning, hospitality listeners. You know the drill. Like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in on the lives. Again, shout out to Terry White. Anyone who comments in, we want to give you a shout out. And then, of course, we hope you guys all have a fun and a safe 4th of July weekend. If you're taking time off, spending time with family, friends, all the good stuff. Tune in. Good Morning Hospitality Europe. And, of course, Good Morning Hospitality Hotels. Actually, TBD. They may take the week off due to the holiday, but we'll see. And of course, like and subscribe to all the channel stuff. And we'll see you guys again next week.